Okay, so there you have it. That is a chain fall. When you turn the chain, it's the one chain. You turn this chain one way, this way, or that way. It makes this chain with the hook go up and down. That was hooked onto this chain, which is hooked onto either end of this head. And one is off on the other side. I don't even think it took an hour to lift them off. To take all the bolts out and everything else took all damn day. It's now 5:45. I think I started at 9:30. 9 or 9:30, so 8 hours. Not bad. Not bad at all. Tomorrow's another day. Tomorrow, the back of the engine has to get hung from the ceiling and just taken up ever so slightly. These mounts on either side of the generator housing here, those bolts get taken out. All the bolts inside here that mate the generator to the bell housing get taken off. Then there are other bolts even deeper inside that hold I'm not sure if they call it a coupler or what, but it's the bolts deep inside there are holding a plate that's attached to the generator that makes the generator spin inside. All those bolts have to be removed. Then this monstrosity has to be moved back approximately a foot or so. That will unmate it from this bell housing here, and this bell housing runs all the way around the motor. The bell housing has to come off because in order to drop the crankshaft straight down out of the motor, which we'll see later, the bell housing has to come off. Then I'm going to try and drop the back of the crankshaft down and then back. And if that does not work, if that does not look like it's going to work, then the front of the engine has to come apart. Poor lighting here, but another 2 or 3 hours to take all these. That's the damper pulley's got to come off. This is the seawater pump. Excuse me, that's the fresh water pump that circulates the water through the engine. The seawater pump's got to come off. This expansion tank for the fresh water that circulates through the engine has to come off. And then what's called the timing gear cover that all this shit is bolted to has to come off. Then this mount that runs down each side of the engine, looks like it's on a 45-degree angle, that has to come off. And the front of the engine has to be suspended from the ceiling. And then the crankshaft can be dropped directly down. All right, well, that's enough for today. Muscles on my body that are screaming that haven't been used in God knows how long. Here's the other head. Here's actually the bearings on the connecting rod. The connecting rod, which I'll show you again later, attaches the pistons, or this particular piston. It connects the piston. The connecting rod is just that, a connecting rod. It connects itself to the piston on one end, and then it connects itself to the crankshaft on the other end, which makes the piston go up and down. The bearings got pounded out of the connecting rod, which it goes in between the connecting rod and the surface of the crankshaft. Anyway, the bearing got pounded out, and the crankshaft, I believe, has a 45 thousandths groove on in it. So between the bearing being gone and the groove in the crankshaft, it gave it that much more room to come up, where these half circles here, or whatever they are, those have been made. That's not from the factory. Those have been pounded into the piston by the valves. These valves, again, poor lighting, very poor lighting. These valves, there's 4 valves per cylinder, 2 exhaust, 2 intake. They bring the air into the cylinder. The cylinder compresses it with the fuel, which causes an explosion, sends the piston down, and on the next time the piston comes up, the exhaust valves open and goes out the exhaust. So 1 stroke, intake valves open, next stroke exhaust valves open. So anyway, there was so much more clearance with everything being worn so out that the valves hit the top of that piston. And I'm sure, well, I didn't notice on the inside. I got to go look. I don't think number 11 connecting rod was quite as bad as number 12. No, there are no marks in this cylinder. However, this connecting rod was torn up by the connecting rod next to it. That's why the heads had to come off, and it is of my opinion so far that the engine is just worn the fuck out. There's such a thick ridge inside these pistons from wear, from the rings going up and down 80 bazillion times, and whatever failed here. Either the oil pump failed and there was no oil pressure, or it somehow mysteriously got very low on oil. So I don't think we'll ever, well, I will know. I will know when I take the oil pump apart if it's wasted and it wasn't pumping oil, or it was barely pumping oil with, not enough pressure. Okay, now we're done for today. It's time to kick back and try to relax. Yeah. The hot water should still be hot. I think it's Tuesday, Tuesday is a good day to shower. Over and out.